What's up, dudes? I'm the Dominicator, and in this video, I'm gonna hypnotize you to quit doomscrolling. As in all of my videos, you'll be commanded to leave a comment at the end while hypnotized, so go ahead and log into an account that you can use for that. Mute any distractions, and continue when you're ready to get hypnotized. Alright, dudes, so to begin, look at the spiral in front of you, right in the center of it, as you listen to the sound of my voice. And as you look at the spiral, as you listen to the sound of my voice, then you'll find something very magnetic, a drawing, pulling and magnetic force that just seems to draw and to pull your attention right into it, right into the center of that spiral. And there's something about it that just feels so good, something so wonderful and pleasant, and wonderfully mind-meltingly pleasant. As you just listen to the sound of my voice as well, there's a wonderful, warm and masculine, dominant tone and texture about it that just feels so good to hear, that just feels so wonderful to hear. And as you just listen to the sound of my voice, a wonderful, mind-melting feeling, and just feels like each and every word is a drip and drop of mind-melting pleasantness and heaviness that drips and drops down on the surface of your mind, and it just seems to wash away all of your thoughts and cares and worries and stresses and tensions. It just seems to wash away all of the news and all of the anxiety and even all of the doom scrolling. It just seems to begin to wash all that away, each and every single word that I say. As it drips and drops down onto the surface of your mind, it has a kind of heaviness about it, a heaviness that just seems to weigh your mind down. A wonderful, warm and masculine, dominant heaviness that just seems to weigh your mind down and to cause your thoughts and cares and worries, stresses and tensions just to melt and drip and drop down, just like putty right into my hands. And there's something about it that just feels so good as it happens. There's something about it that just feels so good as you already feel bits and pieces of that stress, of that tension, of that anxiety, of the doom scrolling, as it just melts away, into time that you'll use to do other things. There's something about it all that just feels so good. Something about it all that just feels so good. And not only does the wonderful, warm, and mind-melting heaviness feel good, but also the masculine, dominant tone and texture of the sound of my voice. It just feels so good just to float down, to drop down, to sink down into it even more. It just feels like you're floating down and sinking down, dropping down into a wonderful, warm fluid that is made from the sound of my voice. A wonderful, warm, and a positive fluid that you just continue to soak up even more and more. And the more that you do, the more that it fills you with a wonderful, warm, pleasant feeling. It fills you with a wonderful, warm, pleasant feeling as you just continue to drop, to fall, and to float even more, and even further, and even faster into it. It just feels so wonderful, so wonderfully good, that it will feel even better to snap down into an even deeper state of relaxation, and that would just feel so good. An even deeper state of wonderful, mind-melting relaxation in which you'll begin to feel the morphing, twisting, turning, shifting, shaping, feeling inside your mind as all of the doom scrolling habits are just washed away. Now that would just feel so good. And it feels so good just to sink, to float, to fall down even more under the influence, not of the doom scrolling, but of such a wonderful, warm, masculine, dominant, male authority figure, and that is your coach, your mentor, your master. Well, that just feels so good. And you can already feel a pulling, a calling feeling that pulls you down, that calls you down even more and even further into that wonderful, warm and relaxed state. And in a moment's time, when I snap my fingers and I say the word sleep, then you'll go all the way down into that even deeper, more relaxed, more passive, and more obedient state of sleep. As the sound of my voice is my words, they just morph and shift and shape your mind and your habits even more into a good and nice, and a positive and a helpful and a functional state. Oh, that just feels so good as it happens. That the mind learns, that the brain learns that this is a good thing to do, to sink down, to float down, to drop down even more, and even further, and even faster in that state. You can already feel a winding up and a building up of a heaviness and a tension that just wants to take you all the way down into that state at any moment. With the click of my fingers and the word sleep, it will just feel so good. To collapse completely and totally into that wonderful, deeply and totally relaxed and passive state now. Sleep. Sleep as you just fall down, as you drop down, as you float down, as the body just relaxes, as the mind relaxes, as the eyes snap down shut, as you go down, as you fall down, as you float down even more, as you just soak up all the good and the positive, the wonderful, warm and masculine, dominant tone and texture of the sound of my voice. That just feels so good. It feels so good. So good to have that wonderful, warm and masculine, dominant tone and texture of my voice, and the influence of a coach, a mentor, a master who can tell you exactly what it is that you need to do in order to get into a better state of mind. Well, that just feels so good. That just feels so good. You can already see, you can already imagine, you can already picture how you might use all of the time that you get back from doomscrolling, pursuing a good and a nice, healthful hobby, maybe weightlifting, maybe doing more cardio, or maybe getting even more into your diet, perhaps cooking for yourself, or maybe there's something else, like doing a sport, or reading books, or some other skill that you want to develop, some other way to use that time. You can even see, you can imagine, you can picture it now, that the doom scrolling itself, the doom scrolling, and maybe it takes the shape of an image of your phone, just scrolling through the news, scrolling through the doom, and as you picture and as you imagine that influence, it's an unhelpful, kind of evil influence. You can just imagine and see it in your mind's eye, and also begin to see it melting. The phone and the news, the doom scrolling, it all just begins melting and dripping and dropping down into time right in your hands. Into time right into your hands that can be used for anything else. And as it happens, as the habit just melts, as it drips and drops down into your hands, and it forms a potential and a fuel and an energy that you can use to do anything else at all. There's something about it that just feels so good. There's something about it that just feels so good as you reclaim even more and more of that time. As you reclaim even more and more of that time with which you can do anything else and pursue all the good and the positive and the helpful habits and hobbies that you want to. There's something that just feels so good and so much better about this. That you feel a twisting, a turning, a morphing, and a shifting, a shaping feeling inside of your mind, inside of your brain, that pulls you, that draws you, that magnetizes you even more towards these hobbies. And the more that it pulls you, the more that it magnetizes you, the more that it draws you towards these hobbies, the more that it also draws you away from the doom scrolling. All of the news and all of the news cycle has become so repetitive and so stale after a while. It just becomes boring. It's the same old doom and gloom, with which you can't really do anything at all. There's nothing at all that you can do with it. But with your hobbies and with your good and positive and healthful habits, then you're doing exactly what it is that you should be doing. You're doing exactly what it is that you should be doing by just being healthy and just being happy and just being involved with other things and other activities. The more that you do, well, the more and more, in fact, that you prepare for any kind of scenario that might come your way. The more and more that you feel a good and a positive and nice and a prepared feeling. And the more you feel that, the better and better that you feel. The more that you feel a reclamation and control of your time as that phone, as the doom scrolling, as the news, as it all just melts and drips and drops down and falls down just like a putty into your hands. There's something about it that just feels so wonderful, so good, so mind-meltingly pleasant. Well, the moment that you shut it off, you feel all of the anxieties, the stresses, the tensions, the cares, and the worries. All of those in the world, they just fade away. They float away. And it sort of feels as if there was a trickster inside of your phone. A trickster inside of your phone, inside of your computer, that was pulling the strings and leading you to states of unhappiness, to states of anxiety. And you might even imagine, you might even see that inside of that phone, inside of the doom scrolling, that little trickster that just seems to get a thrill or a laugh out of making you feel bad. But the more that you turn away from it, the more that you engage with all the good and the positive, the helpful hobbies, the better and better that you feel. And the more and more that you can just stick it to that trickster. And the better and better that you'll feel. The more and more helpful that you'll feel. The happier that you'll feel. As the phone, as the doom scrolling, as it all just melts away, drips down, drops down, into time, into unrealized potential in your hands. And there's something that just feels so good about that. so good about that, and just by itself, about moving away even more towards the bad and the corrupting influence. And that just feels so good about moving even closer and closer towards the good and the positive and the helpful habits. And not only all of that, but about falling even more under the influence of such a wonderful, warm, masculine, dominant alpha male master. Oh, that just feels so good. That just feels so good, even to hear that word master. That just feels so good. It gives you a nice and wonderful, tickly and tingly feeling. That just courses, that just surges all throughout you. Well, there's something that just feels so good about doing it for yourself, but something that feels even better, doing it for such a wonderful, warm, masculine, dominant master that you follow and that you obey. You can even feel there is a feeling about the sound of my voice, my words, that is dripping and dropping down into you, drilling down inside of your brain, turning and twisting, morphing and shifting and shaping all of the habits and the thoughts and feelings inside of your mind. There's something that just feels so good about that. Something that just feels so good about that. Just submitting even more to such a wonderful, warm, masculine, dominant, positive influence that is your master. The more that you do, the better and better that you feel. The better that you feel, and the more that you feel is such a wonderful and helpful feeling with each and every single passing day. The news and the doomscrolling, it just fades away. It floats away. It flies away from you. And the more that it does, the more that you feel a feeling of being helpful, a feeling of being normal, a feeling of just being into your own activities, into your own things. Something that makes you feel special, something that makes you feel unique. After all, you have something going on that other people don't. You have something going on that other people don't, and it's something that makes you unique, something that makes you special. And that's a good positive feeling to have, just to know that you're doing something that other people aren't doing, that you're doing something that other people perhaps even can't do, and that you're pulling away from the doom scrolling, you're pulling away from the news. And that just feels so good, that just feels so nice, that just feels so individuating. It's something that pulls you and that draws you even more and even closer, even further and even faster to it. As you just imagine getting into all of the good and the positive habits that you will, then you feel a feeling of anticipation, a feeling of excitement, a feeling of enthusiasm for them as you just picture, as you imagine all of the things that you'll do, all of the new and the good information that you can take in. And the more that you do, the more that you realize exactly how irrelevant all of the bad news is, all of the doom and gloom. The more that you realize how irrelevant it is, and how repetitive it is, how you already know what's going on. All that news is old news. And, in fact, the news in your life is whatever it is that you're doing. The news in your life and to you is whatever concerns your habits, your hobbies, and your goals and your aspirations. That's your news. And that's such a good and a positive feeling to have, just to engage with your own news, your own real individuated news. It's such a good and a positive feeling that each and every single time that you do, you feel such a wonderful surge, a rush of pleasantness, of excitement, and of enthusiasm for all the good and the positive things that you're going to do instead. And you don't have a feeling that you're missing out on anything at all. You're not missing out on anything at all. You're already familiar with the news and the news cycle. You're already familiar with all of the bad news, all the doom and gloom. It's so repetitive that it just begins to bore you. In fact, should you even try to revisit the news, there's something about it that just seems so stale, so boring that it can't even hold your attention for long. The more that you try to read the news, the more that you gloss over the doom and gloom, the more that you feel a feeling of that staleness, a feeling of boredom that just pulls you, that draws you away from it. It's nothing that just feels better than just following and obeying your master as you go about doing something else. And as you go about doing something else, you have that distinct and nice and positive feeling that you are in fact following and obeying your master. Well, that just feels so good. That just feels so good that it becomes exactly what you'd rather do instead. And in a little while, when I count you up from 1 to 5, then you're going to leave me a comment to that effect. You're going to leave me a comment that says, "Yes, master, I will quit doom scrolling, master." You'll leave me a comment that says, "Yes, master, I will quit doom scrolling, master." And when you do, then it will become the complete and total absolute truth. You will quit doom scrolling for the obedience of your master. And it will just feel so wonderful as you do. And now I'm going to count you up from 1 to 5, and as I do, you'll feel a wonderful, lifting, rising, floating feeling that'll take you back up into the waking world, and you'll carry with you a wonderful feeling of excitement and enthusiasm for all the good and positive, hobbies and habits that you'll build with your new reclaimed time. Now then, beginning with 1, as you feel that lifting, rising, floating feeling, carrying you back up just like the wind. 2, coming up even more. And 3, already halfway there, it's feeling so good. 4, almost all the way back up now. And 5, eyes open and wide awake. Alright dudes, check out Dominicator.com to schedule an appointment with me to get hypnotized, and to check out my digital downloads, and also to request a commission for video. Alright, catch you later dudes.